Okay, welcome to A Psychic Affair. Today we're looking at pendulums. Yay! Welcome along those that are here. Now, you know what? It's a really amazing thing, pendulums, because it's so simple. You can make one out of anything, so we're going to start there right at the very beginning. You can use anything you like for a pendulum, and you've also, it can be jewelry. Most people have something around their house, and it can be as simple as, let me have a look. I've got a few things here, so we'll pop this into the mix right now, so that you can see everything. I might just bring it up to this style. Okay, now here is just an ordinary necklace. A friend made it for me, or actually a client made it for me, and so you can see it's already on the go. So I'll stop it and pop it on the go. Now I've worn this a lot. It's fairly well balanced. It's not brilliant, but I have worn it a lot. And so what you're looking at is if you wear something a lot, as long as it's well balanced, this hasn't got a free-flowing chain. It'll be a bit harder to get it moving, but there she goes. So you're looking for anything that can free flow, that can move without too much trouble. Oopsie, I've just dropped my whole box of stuff, which is really important because they're all my pendulums. So I'm reaching out for them. Drop my headset. Hey, it's Dorothy's show. We all know how that goes, right? We all know exactly how that goes. Now, I've also got a plum. Now, this is actually a plum bob, or a plum, or some people just call it a bob. I was telling you about this yesterday, Ramona. Now, a plum bob is what builders use to get a straight line. Wall hangers use them. Thank you, Gigi. The wall paper hangers, I guess, they use it, and so that's what you've got there. Now, if you have a look at that, it's really light. It's actually quite little. Look at it in relation to my hand. It's actually quite little. Now, one of the things you can do with a pendulum, of course, this one's just a bit of string, nothing fancy. You don't need fancy. What you need is balanced. And while I believe anybody can make a pendulum work, I do think sometimes people try too hard to get it all just right and to make everything sort of work that way. But you really don't need to. These work really well because they're weighted perfectly, they're balanced perfectly, we've got a nice narrow point, and they're light. You know, my hand's up here, my arm's up here, so I want something nice and light and easy to use. And so getting it moving is pretty easy. It's on a shorter string, which means too that normally your arm would be down a little bit lower. Whoops, we'll hold that up for you to have a look at. Your arm would be down a little bit lower. So that's a plum. So that's another thing that I've got. Now, I've got this Galoof Great. Check this out. This is a big turquoise chip necklace. And you might think, well, not even. But in fact, it's pretty well balanced as well. So the balance is everything. Now, it's really long. Would I use this on a day-to-day basis or any time that I want to use a pendulum? Probably not. But I just want to show you that actually you can use anything. And if you wear something, it'll get going, but I have to hold it way up high. There she goes. Now, the thing here is that unless you actively move or make a pendulum move, and it's going to go round and round in a second because I'm asking it to do that. There we go. Round and round we go. It's not going to go into dirty, great big movements just with a shake of a hand or a slight movement of your hand. You would have to be really putting it out there. But it works, and that's a pretty big, serious, and weighty thing. Now, that's American turquoise and coral. Beautiful coral. I was given that by a lady I did a painting for. Now, I've got this too. Now, these are real pearls, really old, and it's got this little wee catch, that's all broken. The catch is no good on the end for anything as much. It's got no weight. I can put that all down so that it's all nice and hanging there, or you can hold on to it. It is nice to have a bit of weight on the end. It does make it easier to see the movement. Now, because there's no weight, it's not pulling itself around once it gets moving. But this actually, even though that's a bit crooked there, moves quite nicely. I've used it a number of times, and you can just tie a ring or tie anything onto the end of something like this. But I really like them, and they've got really nice energy. It moves around quite freely. So that's another one. I've got a pile over there. There's one I baked earlier. Okay, so we've got me plum. I'll pop me plum over there. Now, I've got this. I've had this for years and years and years. I just tied a knot in a chain. I didn't mean to. For years and years and years. Now, I used to do a lot of psychic suppers. I might do an online psychic supper. We'll see, but I charge for that sort of thing as rules. So this is I was given this set many years ago. Now, the chain itself is actually rubbish, but it's so fine. It's one of those that just bends, which makes it a real nice mover. right? And this is actually a rutilated quartz crystal. Can you see that? Rutilated quartz. That means it's got tourmaline on the inside of it, and everybody that knows me knows that I'm kind of a fan of tourmaline. Now, the chain was rubbish. It had a set pair of earrings which were on a funny loop thing, and one broke very quickly. It was just not a happening thing. Very, very quickly, I was like, okay, this is a pendulum, new pendulum for me. Now, you can make them shorter. You can shorten that up, make it shorter. You can leave it long. Whatever works for you, do it. Just do whatever works for you. And here she is. Now, this is a really nice mover for me. And I know why, because I love quartz and I love tourmaline. There she goes. I'm not even thinking about it, and she's off. I've used it a lot. When I did psychic suppers, everybody gets a go at all of this stuff. And if you've got your pendulum at home, use it. If you want to come on the webcam and show yourself using it, feel free. Just light up the camera at the top of your page. You don't have to light up the sound and the mic if you don't want to. And there she goes. Now, it's a really lovely thing. Now, you'll notice that actually I've got that hooked onto the actual catch. You see the catch there? Rather than the other end, which was a little bit too short. Now, this actually works as a necklace, but it works amazingly well as a pendulum. Now, I've got this on my neck, and I should have taken it off, but I wanted to show you can just simply do this. You don't have one what? You don't have a necklace. You don't have a necklace at all. A pendulum. None of these are pendulums, are they? They're necklaces. Those are necklaces. That was just a necklace that I just allowed to drop. Now I've got to work out how to get this off. Let me see. Am I in the right part? Oh, well, I'll get it off easier if I use the right thing, won't I? There it is. Any necklace will do. And I'm going to show you another little trick. Do you have rings? Do you have any jewelry at all? There are things that you can do. Now, this is a necklace. This is from purpleplates.com. Now, you can buy pendulums at www.purpleplates.com. Do fly along there. She's got some lovely pendulums, by the way. I have a bit of pendulum envy. Now, this is the necklace from there. Now, see how the modern chains are not linked so much. They are sort of plaited or woven together. So because that's wide, that will be very, very difficult to swing, okay? So what you do is you make sure that nothing's going to, unlike that, nothing's going to fall off the end. It all fell off the end. When you make sure nothing's going to fall off the end, we go through here. It's because they're on a ring to keep all the pieces together. It's lepidolite, by the way, lepidolite. And so you make sure it won't fall off the end, and then you have yourself a nice little situation, and I'm just going to loop it through, you see? Once it's looped through, I now will have a very nicely balanced and easy to use pendulum. There you go. Oops, we'll lift that up. See that? Straight away. Now, because I wear it all the time, this will work beautifully. Now, I've never used this as a pendulum yet, but there she goes. She's away. Now, I've never picked up anything I can't use as a pendulum, mainly because I've been doing it all the time for so long. It's absolutely nothing to get things going. I do have picked up crystals and pieces that are a little bit harder to get going, mainly because they're heavier more than anything else. So think light, think simple, think balanced, and that's the way, if you can see that, she's moving just nicely. So I'll pop that over there to put back on later. Now, this is my official pendulum. I have an official pendulum. In other words, this was made as a pendulum. I bought it in a Kaitaia shop up here, up north, called Kotari Gifts. Now, these are very popular. At the moment, you can get them on Amazon. You can get them everywhere. They're quite cheap. They've got the little chakra beads, which is quite nice, unnecessary, but very nice and very pretty. And, of course, getting something like this moving, you can see that everything around this is designed for balance and weight. Even when you buy a crystal, it's not necessarily balanced properly. So if you have trouble getting one moving, I think, and suggest that you just try something else. But it doesn't have to be official. And the more you use it, the more you wear it, the faster and easier it'll be for you to use, right? I've just asked it to give me a yes, and there she goes. Now, I've got a big deal about yeses and nos, and this is really important. I'm going to show you. I've got a little bit of a chain here. This chain's just sitting around doing nothing but waiting for this. I've got a ring on my finger. I'm going to take the ring off without necessarily cutting my finger off. Now, all I'm going to do, and this is a good chain. You see, for this sort of thing, it folds virtually perfectly in half without having that little ringy piece there because it's nice, fine, all of that. So I'm just going to thread my ring through there. Everybody can do this at home. You can play around with it while we're working it. And as I thread my ring in there, now I wear this ring all the time, a lot, not all the time, but a lot, not when I'm fishing. And again, we'll just get it to give us some kind of an answer, just to show us. Oh, I'll make that a bit shorter because it's a bit too far for me to reach up. So we stop it. And once we stop it, now the way to get things going, the way to set up your own personal language is you ask your crystal, you ask your pendulum, show me a yes. That's what you're asking it. You know, everything you do with the pendulum is going to come through your own energy. There she goes. That's my yes. Now, it's not the same for everybody. Just so as we know, it's not the same for everybody. There's my no right there. It's not the same for everybody. I get a no. Oh, you can't see. So I get a no. So the thing here is you've got a couple of elements. The first thing is free-flowing. The second thing is the more you've used it, worn it, touched it, the easier it'll work for you. There she goes, my big fat no. Oh, and she's away. Thank you. So you can see that it's not a particularly little ring. It doesn't look like it would be easy to use. But if you've got an engagement ring, a wedding ring, any ring. Now, I've got this ring here. You see, I'm all jeweled up just so I can show you this stuff. So if I take this ring off, and I love this ring, I do wear this ring a lot. I wear this when I do energy sessions, and that's actually glow-in-the-dark smiley face. Oh, I need the chain. Cheap as chips ring. I just saw it one day, and I thought, I want a smiley face ring, so I've got one. And I was particularly pleased to find that it glowed in the dark. Now, I'm using the wrong chain. Where did I'm dropping things everywhere. I'm using the wrong chain, but just to show you, you can see it's hanging on a bit of an angle. That in itself is a bit of a problem, so I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. It's an adjustable one. Okay, that's better. And now I'll just let it do its thing. And again, you go again. There you go, straight away. Now, I know I said I recommend that you don't have this, this one, the one posted on this page, on the show page, Christy, was that one I showed you, this one here? That one you mean? Oh, you mean it in the picture. Sorry. Yeah, I get you. That's an angel aura. This little one here is an angel aura, and that's a standard brass plumb bob, if you like, or pendulum that you can buy. So that's just to really show you that you can use anything you like as a pendulum. And if you're comfortable with it and you practice with it, it becomes very, very easy. Now, one of the simpler things that you can do with a pendulum, I'll just pop myself down here again so that we can have a look at our pictures. One of the things that you can do when you're using a pendulum is you can, of course, ask it questions. Now, one of the most problematic things for the questions is in actual fact the asking of bad questions. They can only really give you a yes or a no. If you're going to use it this way, you're getting yes, no, and you might get a maybe. Now, I don't believe in maybe. So we've got this thing that goes where you get a maybe, and you'll hear all sorts of explanations around the net that maybe means you shouldn't be asking, or maybe means that you're not meant to know. There you go. Perfect. But I don't believe in that at all. I think maybe means that you have asked a bad question, or you've asked a question that you've asked 50,000 times before and even you're fed up with it. So if you're going to ask every day, does Russell Crowe love me and will he marry me? Even though I've never met Russell Crowe, even though I'm never going to probably meet Russell Crowe, I could have got a no, at the start. And then I'd have got a no, then I'd have got a no. And then in the end, it's almost like a give up thing because you're not asking sensible questions. You're not asking questions that there is an answer to beyond the answer you've already given. And yet now you're trying to direct it. So what's happening there is your own desire, your own energy is trying to direct the pendulum in contrast to the answer, if you like, to the answer that is probably right. So when you've got a pendulum, you can do this interesting thing. You can check your chakras, okay? You can check your own energy. Now, I used to do this, and it's kind of mean, but when I was doing psychic suppers, we'd get a lady or a person, but mostly they were women, to sit down in a chair, and I'd stand behind them, and I'd hold a pendulum above their head. And I would give them an instruction that I was going to ask them a couple of very simple questions, nothing personal. Now, I've got to say, I used to get the class themselves, or not the class, but the visitors, the guests themselves to ask the question because they were all friends. And then one day, I did a show, a psychic supper, and the question they asked the lady was really mean. That asked her if she was having an affair, and she said no, and the pendulum did its thing, and they all knew, but I thought that was really, really mean of them, and she was very distressed about that. So I started asking the question. So it's a very simple question, and you can check it, and you can do this with your family members, you can do it with anybody, but ask a question that you don't know the answer to. It could be as simple as to, did you have an apple slice for lunch? Did you have a coffee today? Whatever. If you know the answer, then you can influence this, right? So something you don't know the answer to is best. And then you tell them they can tell the truth or lie. It's entirely up to them. Okay, but they need to verbalize it. They can think it and it'll start moving, but then you don't know what they're thinking. They could be just deciding. So if you hold a pendulum over a chakra, the crown chakra is the best for this. If you hold it over the chakra, this is my palm chakra, and I'll just answer the question. Ask me a question and don't be mean, and I'll decide if I want to be true or lie about that. Excellent, Christy Who. I'm fantastically glad that that's moving, since you said you'd had a bit of trouble with this sort of thing. Did you catch a fish today? Okay. Now, it's a new lie detector. It is an awesome lie detector test. If somebody will let you do it, it's good stuff. So, did I catch a fish today is the question, and I'm going to answer yes, I did. Okay. And I'm going to see it's sort of jumping. Yes, I caught a fish today. In fact, I caught a huge fish today. Now, what happens there, it's a little hard because I'm holding both sides of this, is it wobbles, and you can see it wobbling in the chain. And if I keep lying, if it was above my crown, it would go ballistic, jumping up and down. So I lied in my answer with my yes. Now, if I answer that honestly, did I catch a fish today? No, I didn't catch a fish today. We'll have a fairly static, a fairly stable environment. There we go. She's just wandering off now. There's no yes or no in that. It's just reacting to my chakra. What we can't do is we can't lie without our energy changing. And we've had so many things trying to measure this over the years that it's phenomenal. What they've never been able to measure is the energy itself. They've always tried to measure the body response, which can be trained. A person who really doesn't care can't be measured. A person who's delusional can't be measured. A person who can't remember properly or whatever, doesn't feel that they're responsible, can't really be measured, and that's made it a fairly unreliable test for anybody but the honest or the people who don't normally lie, right? So this is a really fun way to look at this, but you can also use it to determine your own sort of heart center, your own chakras. You can ask yourself a question, and instead of going for a yes or no answer, you can leave the pendulum flowing around your own chakras, especially the groin, because you've got no control over that puppy, especially the groin. So you can hold it over there, and you can ask yourself a question. Am I going to get a job? Am I going to do this? And there's an inner knowing. Now, if you just want to ask a general question, and the question is, am I going to get a job? Well, clearly, at some point in your future, unless you never work for the rest of your life, you're going to get a yes to that answer. That doesn't mean tomorrow, next week. So that's when time frames come in. But I have got this to show you because I really, really like this. Now, Ramona made this for today's show. She grabbed herself a nice, it looks like a rose quartz to me. She's wired it up, which I always think is a lovely thing, caged crystals, what we call them here, and she's put it on a nice cord. And I just think that's awesome. She did it for today's show. She didn't have a pendulum. Yes, it is rose quartz, and I just think that's absolutely fabulous, Ramona. Really nice job. And it shows you, too, you can waltz down the road, you can grab a crystal, hang on to it for a while, or if you've got a box of crystals somewhere, you can go grab it, you can get yourself some nice little wire, and you can create your own thing. You can create that, or you can create a loop at the top. You can do a very simple tie and put it on a chain. It's entirely up to you. Now, using pendulums can be profoundly rewarding, by the way. The big deal about them is that they are giving you information from something inside yourself. And there we go. She's saying she got the wire at the dollar store, and it's a shoelace that she got from a wire store. We don't need to get all technical and fancy about it. A pendulum will work. That's it. End of story. As long as it's balanced and free-flowing, it will work. Back in the day, the first experience I ever had of pendulums was, it was quite a fashion when I was a young girl for women, usually older women, to get your wedding ring, usually because girls were married. They'd get the girl's wedding ring, not their own wedding ring, by the way, and they'd put it on a chain or tie it on a bit of string, and they'd hold it over their wrists, and they would ask how many children they're going to have. And up and down would mean they were going to have boys, and round would mean they were going to have girls. So they would start and stop and start and stop till it didn't get an answer. So it would go backwards and forwards, and then it would stop and then go backwards and forwards. It was surprisingly accurate, actually. So there's an inner knowing, there's an inner something we've got going on in our bodies. And essentially when we use a pendulum, we're asking, you can call it what you like, your higher self, you can call it your inner self, you can call it your God, your goddess inside yourself. But that's who you're asking. And that is very, very true. It's very, very intimate knowledge of a number of things, your behavior, your response to situations, things like that. For example, if you've decided not to talk to somebody, and then you ask your question, crystal, are you going to get back with that person? Are you going to resolve this? There's an inner knowing right at the outset whether you are or you aren't, and then it becomes a matter of, are you listening to that? It could be a year down the track, so then there's the timing. Once you get your answer, you look at timing, which you can do in a variety of ways. So for divination, you can get very technical. Now, you can go online and you can download these, or you can make your own. I always recommend that you make your own because it's quite nice. I'm going to be putting one in my grimoire, and that'll come up and be featured in a show on Witches' Britches in a couple of months, which will be exciting. So you can pop that into a special book or a special place where you've got everything happening of this sort. And what happens is it builds up an energy. It's like I've got a table I use for energy therapy. That table's sucking and putting energy in a constant and ongoing way. My cards, anything that I use regularly, carry a vibration or a vibrancy, if you like. And that's really just good fun. So when we are looking at this sort of thing, we can take our own query out of things by asking ourselves a question. Now, you might ask about the circle. Now, this is important because I've seen so many people do this. I thought, that's never going to work. They start with the pendulum in the middle, and you should really never start with the pendulum in the middle. You should always start with it on an edge, and it's going to flow in a particular way. So if it starts flowing in this direction over here, then you're looking at these bottom angles, because you can't really determine, unless it's the same on opposite sides, you can't really determine which half of this you're supposed to be looking at. But it's a good guide to the fact that you can create a simple thing, and I will be making them up for that show so that you can just download them and print them off. It's a wonderful tool to have if it's set up really, really well. Now, this is set up in degrees, and you'll see a lot of them are set up in degrees. So you have a definite yes and you have a definite no. Now, for yourself, and this is what's important, my yes is a clockwise, my yes is a clockwise circle, all right? My no is an anti-clockwise set, just changes by itself there to an anti-clockwise. When I say the word no, is an anti-clockwise circle. When I've got an up and down, when I've got a straight up and down or a straight across, it means I need to reform, I need to rethink, I'm not looking at the right thing. So that's where the maybe comes in. I don't believe in maybe. I believe that we've just asked the wrong question. When I was running my classes, my psychic development, spiritual development classes, pendulums was always one of those classes. And when we were doing that, I can remember a girl getting quite frustrated, and she says, well, my pendulum's not giving me the right answer. First, you need to determine what is your yes. And the way you do that is by saying, show me a yes, but not just once. You get your yes, and then say, show me a no. You get your no. Show me a maybe or a bad question, and it will show you that. Now, anything outside of that is an anomaly. That means you're either responding badly to the question, the information, whatever that might be. So then when you stop everything, then say, now I want you to show me my yes again, and then ask it to show you so you're sure. That means make it bigger. So when you ask for show me a yes, especially when you're starting, quite often they're little movements. Okay, so there's my yes. Now I'm going to just say, I want affirmation. I want to confirm that yes. Can you confirm that yes? I want to see a big yes. And it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, right? As big as it can for the length of the chain and the amount of energy running through it. And then you are sure, and that's your yes. So from the first time to the second time you ask, it might vary a little bit. So you just allow it to find its feet. Now, for some people, backwards and forwards is the yes. For some people, left and right. We all have our own unique energy signature and the way we flow energy. You might be left-handed, you might be right-handed. There might be a number of factors in there. You might be wired wrong. There might be something wrong with you. Then you just relax. Now, when you don't get it moving at all, the first thing I ever suggest is first think about what you're using. Have you got something else you can use? If you haven't, then the second thing you do is you relax. Just stop, just like I did. Put your arm down, switch hands, okay, and try again. There's one thing that you cannot do, and that does not work, I'll be very clear, and that is to get frustrated. As soon as you get frustrated, nothing's going to happen. So you're just allowing. What you're doing is you're allowing the energy to run from the core of your body, from your cells, from your genes, from your particles, through, and I can always feel this, through your arm and down into your crystal. It is definitely, I don't care what anybody says, it is definitely not spirit running its energy through you. Even if it was, and I've had an experience of spiritual energy, if you like, or energy coming from outside of myself, it's still coming through you. So at the end of the day, you're the one holding this. So if you've got a super desire, say, for example, I want a yes, then you will get your yes. That doesn't mean you're going to get the answer to your question. So you need to separate yourself a little bit from the answers you would like. So when you do create a chart from that, aside from the fact that you've got a general idea of where it is, if you make it purely square and you turn it over and turn it around, good on you, and turn it around a few times, you might not know where yes and no is anymore, and you're allowing the pendulum to choose the degree, and then you can go into any of these degrees and make them what you want them to be, which is really fantastic. So here's another look. You can make it like this. A half is very good because clearly you can only read one part. Now this works really well because you've got a few things going on. You've got a red flag, if you see the key here, an hourglass when it means that it's the wrong time to ask the question. You can put that and make it whatever you want. It can be the wrong time, or if you get the hourglass, it could say you need to ask about timing. Okay? And just relax, Christy. And so you ask for a yes, and if it's not moving, then you ask for a no, and just go through that a few times, changing hands every time you ask, giving yourself about a minute, 30 seconds to a minute between. And then if you feel a bit frustrated, just stop. Now, I've never seen anybody not be able to work a crystal. So it's really just for some people, it takes a little bit longer. And other times you just need to think, maybe I just need to change what I'm using and grab a ring, grab a bit of string, grab something simple. It is definitely, for some, a little bit of practice. An incomplete question is a really good thing. Now, this girl in this pendulum class said she was getting a wrong answer for a question that she was asking, and she said, I don't understand it. It's telling me no when the answer should be yes. And I said, all right, so you've asked a question that you know the answer to, and you get a no, just like you can ask, am I a girl? All right? Now, what's your crystal? What's it going to do? If you had breakfast and you know you did, or you know you didn't, did I have breakfast this morning? You should get a correct answer. Now, it's a really powerful thing, because once you get this working, you can use it on food, and this is big, big, big. I have a friend who doesn't buy any new food item without using a pendulum. Now, while this might seem crazy, she's not using them for everything. She will only use them for something she's not sure of, or if she's getting a reaction, or if something's going on with her, she will ask, is it my food? Is there something I can do? And then she will use the crystal, and she will check her fridge food. She will check her drawers. So you don't have to go through each item. You start with the big things, right? You go near the fridge. Is there something in here that is causing my health issue right now? Okay. Then you go to, okay, there's a no for that. So then you go to the cupboard, the pantry, whatever. Is there something in here that's causing my health issue? Now, if you get no for all of those, then it's maybe something you don't have all the time. Or if you've already got a yes for food, think about where you went to eat, that sort of stuff. Now, we're not talking about tummy bugs, although we could be. We could be talking about allergies, anything. Now, if it's no to food, you can still get a yes for an allergy, or you can get a yes for an improper food. That is a food that you don't have an allergy to as such, but it may have something in it. It may have sprays on it, may have been treated in a particular way, that sort of thing. So ask the question. Okay, sometimes the things that you think are not good are actually not too bad for you, and something you think is good can be causing you some issues. So that's the way to go. Now, this one gives you timing, pluses and minus a month, minus a day, minus an hour, or add an hour, add 3 hours, whatever. You can get dates, okay? So you've got all of these. These are your chances. If you have a look for here, you've got 5% chance of success. So you determine before you start swinging which bit you're looking at. Now, this is a very slow and laborious way to get a letter answer, but it actually works. You can get a letter answer if you want to be and practice mediumship, if you want to talk to somebody. But I do always recommend, the same with the tarot, the same with all of those sort of things, I do recommend that you think about your question. Your question is as important as any answer you might get, by the way. Focus on the question, not the yes or no answer. But if you aren't going to use a chart, yes or no is all you're going to get, just so as we're clear. It's all you're going to get. There's no capacity in here to give you anything else. You've got a no symbol. Here it is. No, it's got to be on there somewhere, right? You've got a yes symbol. Yes. And so, you know, there's your yes, look, through here. Now, you need to have a no in there. You need to think about your question. Now, I keep going away from this, but what this girl, Yvonne, did was she asked, did she have to go to work tomorrow? That was her question. Yes, I am showing pictures. Can't you see them? Can you not see the picture there? Oops. Are you showing pictures? No, I have. Okay, Christy can see them here. No, they're right there. Are you using a tablet or your phone, perhaps? Okay. Fantastic. Thank you, ladies. This girl had asked her crystal. Okay, you have to pick and choose. So this girl asked, well, you can turn my video off. Do you mean you can see my video or you can see the pictures? So you might as well, I've shown you the blast of it. So if you want to look at the pictures, have a look at the pictures. So, yep, that's great. Thank you, Gigi. With Yvonne, she'd asked if she had to go to work tomorrow. Okay, that's the one. Yeah, I did change the view. Sorry, that might have confused everything for you. The question was a bad question, and I'll tell you why. Because she didn't have to go to work tomorrow, right? She chooses to go to work tomorrow if she wants to get paid. She needs to go to work tomorrow if she doesn't want to have a boss angry at her. She has a job, and so she should go to work tomorrow. I am set on... Oh, you're talking to Ramona? I think Ramona, because I changed the view before, I made myself large and then I made myself small again. And so Ramona may have got stuck. She said she has to choose whether she was looking at the video or whether she's looking at she might be using her phone or a tablet. She says she has to choose whether she's looking at the video or whether she's looking at the pictures. So there we go. And that would be a screen size thing, you know, because I know when I use the phone to check all of this, and it does work with phones, by the way, but yeah, it is a little screen. And so I would have to either make it big and have everything on there and shift it aside, or I could choose to watch. Now, when you ask a question, the first thing, if you get an indecisive answer that you do, the very first thing is you ask what the issue is. That is to say, is my question a bad question? And if you get a yes, then you know, all right, I need to reframe the question. It doesn't mean you shouldn't ask that question. It means one needs to reframe the question, okay? That's all you need to worry about, really. That's all you need to focus on. Yes, so you can go down. If you have a look down, you are on a laptop. If you go down, you'll see bird's eye. Under the chat, you'll see bird's eye, and you'll see a little arrow. And if you click the arrow, you'll see all these choices. You can watch it hangout style, video only, radio style, class style, and alternate class style. One shows just the picture and no Dorothy. And then if I make a change, if you're on the same settings as I am, which I didn't change except for the once, then basically it changes as I change it. So that's all good. Yeah, Ramona doesn't normally have problems either, but I think she just got stuck when I changed my view, but that's how you change yours. So when I changed it back, hers probably stayed the same. So if you just notice down the bottom, you click on it, you've got these choices, and you can look at the picture big, you can look at me big, you can look at whatever you like. Okay? So back to this. When we are looking at the percentage, you see here it's got at what percent is my intuitive accuracy today. this is important because, there are days, and I'll say to people when I'm doing readings and in classes when I teach vibrational expansion technique, I'll just say, your intuition isn't really on at the moment. We're never on all the time, Nobody is. My worst might be better than somebody else's best, perhaps, but it's not necessarily good for me, and it certainly may not be good for doing some intense work. Now, I work it. It's my full-time job, so I don't have that kind of issue. But if you're thinking about being trustworthy, if you've got an intuition that this is going to happen today, this is something that's big, you've had this sort of chat, you can actually just ask, is my intuition on in this situation? It doesn't even have to be the word today. And say it's a man online and you think that he's got a bit of a fancy spot for you and you have for him because you're attracted, you might get, you're a 10% accuracy there, Chico, which might mean he was attracted and is flirting, but no, there's no lifelong marriage coming out of that. So it's all about how you set up your interpretation, how you set these things up, just like the tarot cards. There's a way to look at it that works really, really well. May I? Can I? Should I? They aren't bad questions, actually. May I engage in a new career, for example? You might get it's a bad time right now. Now, the truth about that is you will know inside yourself that it's a bad time, because what you would do is you'd start thinking about it, but do nothing for 3 or 4 months, and 3 or 4 months, then you would start doing something with that because it feels like the right time for you, or you need to get to a particular point. But you can, is now the best time to ask my question? I wouldn't bother with that. I'll tell you why, because I'm really like Horari astrology more than any other type of astrology. Any other type of astrology to me is a birth chart and it's done. And yes, you've got transits, but if you know yourself reasonably well, then that's not a big deal. Horari astrology is all about when you ask the question. So if you sent a question to a Horari astrologer, for example, they would look at the time that they received it, and they would read the stars for that time, that day, right then. Because when you ask the question, when you ask any question, it determines where your head's at, it determines where your energy's at, it determines what you're looking for right now. And here's our Ms. Purple Plates herself. I was just telling them that they can go to your page and go to your website and get themselves a pendulum. If they want to get a proper pendulum, that you have lovely ones there, but I didn't think ahead and grab a link for that. But if you want to do that and pop it in the chat, Corrine, that would be fantastic, because I felt a little bit sad that I hadn't done that. You can get and make a pendulum out of everything, of course, but she's also got some beautiful crystal necklaces and things that you could use for that. And I did show them how my purple plate lepidolite necklace worked as well as the pendulum. So when you are doing something that's got as much on it as this, as a chart, you start to think about what you're actually asking at the beginning. But if you want to do readings and pendulum readings for others, then you can start interpreting all of this together. For yourself, probably wouldn't necessarily work so easily, but you can see you've got earth, water, you've got God, you've got fire, you've got air. You can make that spirit. There's science. You've got no, definite no. You've got a lot of things going on in here. And when I do mine, I'm going to make sure there's quite a bit as well. So there's that understanding that the more you've got going on in this chart, the more reliable it will be if you want to read somebody else, the more interpretive it is, which is awesome. You could put sun signs in there, by the way. You could put anything you like in there. And when I do the chart for Witches Britches, I'll make sure that we've got aspects. So if you're asking about timing of something, for example, instead of going for months and dates as such, you could have each month in there. But you could also, instead of that, you could have sun signs, or you could have months and sun signs, because a sun sign runs through 2 months as a rule, whereas a month is month. So you can have a lot of fun with them, and you can have a different chart for different things. But this is a nicely set up chart for asking questions. You can do a chakra check. There's any amount of things that you can do that really make things work really well. Now, when you ask for health, when you ask about chakras, this is when you start to look at something that is, say, you're struggling to get through something, you have emotional issues, you're not making it work. You hold this baby either over the chart or over your body, which is really hard. Let's face it, getting over the back there, up above the head there's a bit tricky. In front of the heart, easy. Groin, easy. Solar plexus. Feet, bit uncomfortable to get down there. So you can use a chart. I always recommend that you actually hold the chart. I really do, with your hands. You can pop a taku ray through there, a taku rate T-A-K-U-R-E-T, and that infuses inanimate objects. So you're infusing it with your own energy, so it carries a bit of your life in it. And then you can hold your pendulum over the chart, and then you can ask yourself, what problem do I have? And whichever one that it runs to or runs over, you can check out. Now, you'll notice that the chart is set up in such a way that none of them are actually opposite. So when it's running straight through there, it's running to a line on the other side, which is what makes this work, because obviously if it's running in a direction, you need to know which one it's counting on here. And it's the same here, the opposite to the crown, it's running to a line on the other side. So when you ask about that, you can be determining, for example, that you're feeling very emotional, you're feeling a bit distressed. Yes, there are so many charts, and I do recommend that you make your own as well. I did put out a little sort of pendulum book some years back, but the key is always about making sure that you're asking the right question for the right thing. For example, if you're going to ask about health and chakras, say you're having an issue with somebody, right? This is really important. This is where it moves beyond divination into a life guidance system. If you want to move beyond that, say you're having a difficult relationship with somebody. I'm talking friendship, boyfriend, doesn't matter, girlfriend, mother, sister, daughter, son, a person you work with, a person you don't know very well who lives in your area, but somebody that you're not comfortable with, you're having problems. One of the most amazing things you can do is use a chakra chart like this. And then you can go, okay, we're having this problem. Which chakras, which area is causing that, which chakra? For them, go to them first. And then you'll get a reading of a chakra. Just say, for example, it's their root chakra. And then you come, where is it for you? Now, it could be the same chakra, but say it's a different chakra. Which one is it? Because it's upsetting you. It may not be upsetting them. So what you know then is that you're in conflict with your root, their root, say, and just say, for example, your throat chakra. So that means that if it's their root chakra and your throat chakra, you are saying things, or you say things in a way that reminds them of a poor experience when they were younger, or a person that they didn't like very much. Have you ever had that whole idea of, every Jody you met, you didn't like a Jody treated you really badly. I'm not picking on any Jodies. A Jody treated you really badly when you were young, and then every time you meet somebody called Jody after that or hear of something, you're slightly turned off. Have you ever had that experience? You're just slightly turned off. And then that's going to affect how you interact with that person when you can develop a friendship. And that's coming from the past, and we all have that. You've got a person who could squint their eye in a particular way, and you knew trouble was coming. That could be your parent as a child. It could be somebody who was verbally abusive. So in the future, and this is for real, in the future you could meet somebody, and when you do meet them, anytime they do that, you immediately go back to your childhood responses to that, and you find that it's an angsty or a difficult relationship for those reasons. So this is where this can come in really well. It can also work out where you're coming from. Say you're heading into a business idea, if you want to expand, if you want to do something different, you could ask where that's coming from in you. Where's this urge coming from? Where's this desire coming from? And you might find it's coming from your crown. And then you can look at the information for the crown, and you could see what it is that you're trying to achieve. There's a lot of things you can do with this. And then you can go back to another chart with your crown in mind, and then think about, now, if I use this fully, or should I stay with that? Do I need to engage something else? Because we need to actually work as a whole, right? Not from one particular space. Now, this is a basic color chart. You can use that as an aura style reading for yourself as well. And that means you can encourage yourself to wear the right colors. What do I need right now? Am I feeling depressed? Am I anxious? Am I going for a job? What do I need? Maybe you need a little bit of yellow in your life today. Whether that's a small amount or a large amount, it's entirely up to you. Maybe you just need to visually see yellow. Go look at yellow for a minute for optimism. If you're learning and studying and you're struggling to remember something and you get yellow, to go and get a yellow notepad, which is in actual fact known to induce and support memory, which is an awesome, awesome thing too, by the way. You might need purple or pink in your life right now, but we get into little habitual thoughts, and something like this, a pendulum, can help you move past the habit to create something and to change something in one day or in one period of time that actually changes the way you respond to a certain thing. For example, if you're feeling glum a lot, if you feel down a lot, always go to the body too, by the way. Never ignore the fact that it's not all about spirit and psychology. If your body's under distress in some way, you are going to struggle, whether that's anemia, whether that's depressed feeling because you're missing a few vitamin Bs, whether you forget things a lot. Vitamin Bs, again, they're bad culprits of stuff. Iron, all of those things could have a role in where you are. That's where you go back to the food. Is there something that can help me, right? Is there something in my fridge that can help me, or is there something in my fridge that is causing me distress, that's causing my body to struggle? You can ask that. If it's not in your fridge, is there a food that can help me? If so, then go to the shop. Wander around with a pendulum. It might seem a bit silly the first time you do it, but when you find something, first you'll allow yourself to be drawn to the right aisle or whatever. You can write a list of foods down. If you get the answer that food will help you, a food will help you, find it. Write them down. Write them in food groups first. There's wheat groups, there's vegetable, fruit. There's all sorts of groups. There's bread fruits. There's carbohydrates, complex, none of that cakey stuff. But write them down. Get a list. Get a comprehensive list. Kinesiology uses pendulums, by the way, a lot. They'll have their little lists there, and they will try and narrow it down from one thing to the next to the next. I've got lists for using pendulums. I rarely use them these days, but they have a lot of advantage. And once you get good at this, it works very quickly, works very easily, and it's almost amazing to watch the speediness of it all. And then, of course, you can make it as simple as you like. Dowser's question card is a pretty common thing. You got a yes, you got a no, you've got numbers, and you've got letters. It is laborious. It is a really laborious way to get information. By letter like that. It's really, really tricky. And you need to decide straight off the bat. I'm going for the letters here. There's no point in going for a yes or a no. You might want a person's name. So usually you're going to use this very sparingly for a particular thing. In mediumship, I've seen it used a lot. In guidance, I've seen it used a lot. I've seen it in angelic communications. If you can't hear, if your clear audience and your clear visual experiences skills aren't magnificent, this gives you still a tune in to what the energies are around you, and it's being fed and you're interacting with that. So we interact with energy like this. It's a two-way street all the time. So anything that you're reading out there is experienced in here, right? Whichever way it goes. If you've ever walked down looks like a Ouija board, I know that isn't the right spelling, but that's okay. We don't need to spell it. I could read it. It has the same basic look to it. People do use Ouija boards for this, but it's pretty easy to make one for yourself. It's not really science, and you can go and print something like that. Now, this is a really little picture, so it probably wouldn't print up very well, but it's an easy enough thing to set up on your computer. It's an easy enough thing for dowsing. Now, I had this experience years ago. I lost a remote for my telly, and I was like, it's got to be here. This room is only so big. This is years and years and years ago. This room is only so me and the kids, my kids were little at the time, I said, that's it. We're dowsing for the sucker. We're going to go find it. And I started dowsing away merrily with it, with just a standard. Actually, at that time, I had a ring on a chain. And as I was dowsing, it kept taking me towards the couch. And I looked at the couch, I went under the couch, I pulled the couch away, put the couch back. In the end, I just sort of thought, it's not really right. My nephew came to stay with me about a week or two later, and I said, here, you try this, give it a go. So he gave it a go. He ended up at the couch too. It was a fold-out bed, so we folded it out. We looked under we did everything you'd imagine. In the end, we decided that the whole blasted thing was wrong. When I moved out of that house, which was a year or so later, a year and a half later, we picked the couch up and put it on its end to come through the door, and my remote fell out. Somehow it had got inside the actual workings itself. So even though we shifted it and shook it and slightly tilted it, it had to actually lift it end on end for this thing to fall out. So it works. That's all I got with that. It works. So if it works, then it becomes a matter of using it correctly. So you can find lost objects. Okay? You can find lost objects. I did all sorts of dowsing. I used to do the dowsing rods for ages. I made them out of coat hangers with, they used to have the little wooden thing on the coat hanger. You hold them and they could freely move inside. They worked amazingly well. You could find water with that stuff, you know. The best thing about dowsing rods is they give you a direction, but this can too. So, for example, you choose a point of entry, a midpoint of your room. When you stand there, if you've lost something, you go, firstly, is it in this room? And if it's in that room, you'll get your answer. Okay, now it's in this room. Which direction do I need to go in? And when you think about it, it's only going to go in so many different ways to give you a direction. Give it a go. And then you go in that direction. Now you're going to end up, you've now just isolated an area. You know, when we can't find something, this has been researched, which makes this absolutely awesome. When you can't find something, it's always because we actually have a blindness to not seeing where it might be. In other words, we've already decided where it should be. So we either don't check that place properly, but we think we did, or when we look there, we could even see it and move straight past it. How often have you done that? I looked in that drawer. I emptied that drawer out and I still missed it. It's because we have this expectation. We've given our brain a message, and the message is it can't be here. That's the message. And therefore, your eyes don't see it. Well, no, that's not true. Your eyes do see it, but your brain says, no, it's not there. So it's an interesting thing. When I teach vibration expansion technique to teach about intuition and how your mind works and how you accept information, I always show the cycling video on YouTube because it's amazing. And because it's such a big thing, it's so obvious that when you first see that thing, you cannot believe you do not see the moon walking bear. When I first did it, I watched it twice because I thought I was being hoodwinked. But actually, when I went back the second time, I saw it exactly right. So it says that your eyes really don't see things when the brain doesn't believe they're there. How many times have we heard that over the years, eh, people? And it's absolutely true. Well-known fact, well documented. So there is a basic truth that science has proven repeatedly. It's that when you go to pull out and you say, I looked, I didn't see anything, but I looked, it's because you didn't expect to see anything. So yes, you looked, your eyes saw it, put the information back into your brain. You have 5 visual receivers at the back of your brain in the visual cortex. And then, of course, your brain is the bit. It's not that your eyes didn't see it. They're like a camera. They see everything. But your brain filters. And your brain filters on your belief to a certain extent. Nice try. She thinks spirits make her stuff disappear. I'm not there for that one, I'm afraid. I've gremlins that move my shit all the time. You're both batshit crazy. Oh, that's good fun. You know, it's at the end of the day, if we're not focused on what we're doing, we will lose things. And if we don't believe they are where we put them, we will not find them. I had a really nice experience again with a pendulum. I had lost the keys at a friend's place and I couldn't find them anywhere. I was babysitting her kid. This is a long time ago. I'd lost my car keys and I was really distressed because I was like, I need those. When she gets back, I've got to fire out of here. I had to go to work. And so I just got frustrated, couldn't find them, had no idea where I could have possibly put them. And so in the end, I'd finally sat down and I said, all right, pendulum, tell me, where do I need to go? And I didn't have one of these. I used my body, and I urge you to try this as well. This is hilariously good. I used my body as a pendulum, and so I stood there and I asked to be shown as an I need to know, because we know. That's just it. We do know. When something goes out, when you put that thing down in the wrong place and you immediately forget about it or filter it out, you still know you put it there, right? So anyway, that's okay. So I asked, and I got the strongest pull. And what happens when you use your body as a pendulum is your body actually moves. You stand there, you don't sit. You actually feel, it's kind of freaky. And that's you going into the energy around you, and you're following energy trails, which is my favorite thing, energy trails. Anyway, it led me to the door. At the door, there was the porch, there was the stairs, there was my car, and I thought, well, that's logical. But then I was just urged, no, keep going. And I thought, well, I can't because there was stairs, so I would have fallen off. So I walked down the stairs, and in front of the stairs, I dropped the keys, and they were laying in the grass right beside the top area where the door is. So I must have just dropped them. Yeah, it feels a little scary, but actually it's not. You're not being, manhandled by spirit and dead people or anything like that. It's just being in energy. Energy is in motion, and nothing isn't moving. And they've known this not by science. They've known it for thousands upon thousands of years. When I did the the Late Show when I did the Keepers of the Light, and I was looking at, who was I looking at? Jainism. And they understood that everything was in motion. The ruling dervishes, the dervishes understood everything is in motion. Everything is moving. Nothing is still. And so you're allowing yourself to be in that. And there is an energy trail. And for a while, it's open to you. And you just allow yourself to be led to it. Now, we say this stuff all the time, right? I was led there. Something just opened up and I ended up in that space. Something just got me to go that way. It was your energy interacting with another energy. Christy, I've looked for my sunglasses for over 15 minutes at a graduation party last Saturday. They were on top of my head. Not even a little bit funny. Oops, did I laugh? Not even a little bit funny. So when it comes to dowsing, and if you want to use your body, if you want to use health, if you've got a health issue, you take your time to use your pendulum. It's one of the best things. Now, you can use this for another person as well. Where is the issue? Your pendulum will show you somebody's got a sore knee. You can move it over a person's body, and then it'll start responding in certain places. You can ask, and it'll actually show you by movement, because we radiate energy in a particular way, and it's feeling and responding to it. So this is a very light little thing. When it's in a larger energy, it moves in a way, and that's your energy as well, or another person's energy. When we've got something wrong in there, then it's not running smoothly. And it's the same with chakras. If they're not working properly, if the energy coming out of your body isn't sequential, if it isn't harmonious, then the crystal will actually pick up on that, and it will behave erratically, okay? Erratically. You can feel the way, which way a chakra is going by holding a crystal over it. Good thing to play with your kids. They'll always let you do this stuff. Really good fun. Just chuck them on the table and say, all right, lay down, let me play with my crystal. I want to see what's going on. And you can hold it over the chakra points. You can play with them and ask them to lie. Kids love it. My kids just used to love it, this sort of playing. As long as they could play back, they enjoyed it. And they worked crystal very, very well, by the way, at a very young age. Not because I was teaching them that that's what they should be able to do. It's they didn't question it, so they just did it. You know, they just did it. Easy peasy, happening. So it's about relaxing, allowing it to happen. You don't have to have a belief as such, but it is advisable that when you think about it, you're thinking about what you want to know rather than about whether the crystal is moving or not. And as soon as you start focusing on the crystal itself, you're in a little bit of an energetic trouble spot, I guess. It's one of those fantastic things. So that's today's show. I do hope you enjoyed it. Next week on A Psychic Affair, I'm going to be looking at reincarnation. I'm going to be looking at linear multiple lives, which is something that I explored some years back and really had fun with. We will be doing readings, so be there or be square. On our late show coming up this week at midnight, Saturday night, we have Mithraism. Mithraism lends us a whole lot of visual context to astrology, to a lot of our goddess beliefs, etc. So that will be a hell of a fun show. So we'll see you there for that. I'm glad you enjoyed it, and you know where we are, 9:30 p.m. EST every Wednesday night, A Psychic Affair. Ciao for now.